and making sure that, anyone who's there can view the eclipse. It literally does impact everyone. And with that, well, here's kind of one of those fun traffic bits. And I'm going to recommend to everyone here, this is a great area to stay in. I don't recommend getting into this traffic. However, if any of you are having family stay with you, it might be a good idea to have them stay an extra day. And here's the reason why. If you were to look back at 2017, 15 minutes after totality ends, people say, wow, I can't believe I traveled for that. This was a sight I couldn't go on without experiencing once. Just incredible. Let's go home. Now, I want you to start multiplying that times hundreds of thousands of people all leaving at once. That adds up really, really quickly, and what was it? The worst traffic incident, was over 20 hours long. It was at a one-way bridge that just got really backed up. A lot of traffic just tended to double. What would normally take 5 hours to go from Chicago to Carbondale, Illinois, became 12 hours. And, here's an interesting thing about our region. What connects Cleveland, Buffalo, Rochester, and Syracuse? The Thruway. And here's that other fun bit. If you go east or west, you're going to end up most likely on the Thruway, and you're going to run into other areas on the eclipse. You can't really go north, can you? You kind of run into a lake. If there was any time for the fast ferry to return, it would be for one day. Otherwise, it's south, and so many people are going to be going that direction as well. I want you to imagine if you were to use your GPS and it tells you, oh hey, there's some traffic coming up. Well, okay, you then take an alternate route, but then there's traffic on that alternate route. And then it tells you more traffic. So a lot of that builds up. Thankfully, at the museum, we're not the only ones who have been thinking about the eclipse, but the transportation sector has as well. We've been working with the Genesee Transportation Council, the Thruway Authority, the DOT, all of those folks, to make sure that roads don't get as bad. We're also encouraging a lot of people to stick around, take Tuesday off too. Maybe keep people a little bit longer at your house. Or think local, go to your local library, go to your local community center. Those are great community viewing locations. One of the other big traffic things is, well, April 8th, 2024 is a Monday. We started talking about this back in 2019. It's the Monday after what is typically spring break. And at 3:20 p.m. when a lot of schools are getting out. So the question is, what do? We could have students stay a little bit longer at the school and have to deal with traffic. You could, have them go home at the normal time and completely miss out, which could mean missing out on the only eclipse in their own backyard. Or we could get almost every school canceled in the 9-county region. Guess what we ended up pulling off? For which even Hilton is off that day. And thankfully, we now also have all these great science teachers to rely on to help out run events. And this also gives people a chance to just spend it with their families. Safety. Let's take a quick safety short side quest. You should never ever look directly at the sun except during totality or wearing proper eclipse glasses. Sunglasses do not work. Eclipse glasses will block out 99.9% of sun. I want you to think about a welder's mask. Would you weld with just sunglasses? Hopefully not. I may know a couple of friends who've done it for, they'll look away and do it, but probably not the best idea. You must wear the proper safety equipment. And here's the thing. Back in 2017, about 3 days before the eclipse, everyone who bought their glasses on Amazon got a notification. Amazon didn't certify and vet their Eclipse glasses. They had to put out a message saying, hey, use at your own risk or don't use. You couldn't trust these. And all of a sudden, there was a run on Eclipse glasses at the museum and every library in the region. Because the libraries got their glasses from a national grant, which they do again, and the museum did as well. The amount of cars lined up at the museum that day went over a mile. The physical people in line went around the building. This time we've thought ahead. We bought 500,000 pairs of Eclipse glasses for the region, for which a good amount of them will actually be right here at the Hilton Parma Center as one of our ambassador groups. This is not the only way to view the eclipse. There are other ways. How many people have ever made a pinhole viewer? I'm guessing, how many of those are out of cardboard? Most of them. This is not the only way to do a pinhole viewer. You have pinhole viewers most likely in your own kitchens right now. If you have a colander, those make amazing pinhole projectors. Here's the trick though. You cannot hold it up and look directly at the sun through them. You must look down and see the projection. They are great items, and they're not the only item you could use. Slotted spoons, I've seen people use pegboard, cut holes out of, cardstock. That works out perfectly. I've even seen people use saltines and Ritz crackers. And you know what? That's great. You can look at the eclipse and then you can enjoy a snack. Works perfectly. And here you are some of the examples. Actually, around the time of the partial eclipse, we were expecting to try some of this out, and I may have had a big thing of Ritz crackers in my office. Leftovers took me a month to go through. There are other examples out there. There are people who've done 3D prints. The New York State Parks and Rec Department created this 3D print for people to use, for which I believe the fun fact is that Parks and Rec is celebrating 100 years in New York State, I think, this year, which is a lot of fun. Here are the eclipse glasses to give you an idea what they actually look like. And yet again, please do not use sunglasses. During the partial eclipse in 2021, we had a sunrise eclipse, so you could watch the eclipse as it rose over Lake Ontario, which was really a sight. I had to remind a number of people that day to remove their eclipse glasses, their sunglasses. If you are going to do an event at your house, there's a couple things. You don't need to do everything on here. I just recommend having some way to view the eclipse, turning off all of your automatic lights. They will come on. So those driveway lights, turn them off if you can. Unless you want to watch a really cool, fun science experiment, which works, but otherwise try and turn them off. There's a lot of music playlists out there. Almost every genre of music has created something eclipse related. I recommend tuning into some of the live streams. Unfortunately, we won't have a NASA live stream out of Rochester because they're out at Niagara Falls. And here's the thing, it's going to be right over Horseshoe Falls. I get why NASA wanted to be there. I don't know what that view on May of the Mist is going to be, but it's going to be quite the view. The other couple of things I recommend is, being prepared for the weather, and then most of all, I want you to think about who you want to experience the eclipse with. No matter where you are or who you are with, you will always remember experiencing the eclipse with those people. We have been encouraging everyone to be with their families, their friends, people who you really care about during the eclipse, because you will always remember that. Even at the museum, I have worked it out that all of our staff members can bring their families that day and have a green room for them to hang out in if they don't want to be in the crowds. That way, about 20-30 minutes before we enter totality, we can actually meet up with our families. I know personally, I will be right next to my wife and holding my daughter, who admittedly, being who I am, I may have figured out exactly how old she was going to be the moment she was born. Which will be 2 years, 2 months, 8 days. I am way too fast on that number. But I want you to really think about that. And if you haven't already invited those folks, please do so now. Especially as if you can house them at your house, even better. It's going to be a little difficult to find hotel rooms. On that day and on that weekend, there's going to be a ton of different events going on. I know we'll be doing a festival at the museum that Saturday, Sunday, Monday. We're bringing in big name science communicators. We have music. We're doing some storytelling, but we're not the only ones. We have rec centers holding their own events. The Genesee Country Village Museum is doing an 1800s themed event, which they're having a lot of fun with. A lot of our libraries are doing different events. This is only a small fraction of what's going on. There are, I think one of my favorites is there's a euchre tournament taking place around the eclipse. There's a 5K that starts with the end of totality, so you get to experience the eclipse and then start running. Not my favorite idea. There's different wine tastings out there. I know Casa Larga is doing a whole wine tasting. Almost every winery, brewery, and cidery, and distillery is working on something right now. And I have to say, those have been my favorite meetings. They're a lot of fun to work with. There's even been books that have been written. Genesee County did a whole Genesee, the eclipse theme, and they wrote a children's book. It's really cute. Their eclipse glasses are all cow themed. There's different music going on that's been written for the eclipse. Even the RPO, Jeff Tyzik, has written a piece for the eclipse. And on Sunday night, the night before, they're doing a massive concert at the Blue Cross Arena. For which we've actually, we'll be there, we'll be doing something with them. I don't know if they told me if I can say what they're pitching to me. It'll be a bit out there, but it'll be fun. It's going to be a great, great concert. It's been fun to work with. I also note that the Rochester City Ballet has a performance. Everyone's doing something. There's comedy, there's music. That Midday at Midnight is a middle school musical even taking place in Rochester. They're premiering, I want to say, the first weekend of February and then bringing it back at the end. Looking forward, actually, we have a lot of Rochester-themed art. This is the official Rochester Eclipse poster. The artist behind it lives out in Ithaca and is an astronomer. He's an artist. He was a professor. He did a stint at the Grand Canyon where he got to work there for a month in the summer just talking about astronomy and painting, which honestly sounds like a really fun summer. He has worked at the Smithsonian. He's done work for other national parks, state parks. And it just helps that he's only about an hour and a half, 2 hours away from us. He pops into town all the time. And not only did he do the Rochester poster, but he's done Buffalo, the Erie Canal, the Finger Lakes, Wayne County. He has done a lot of local work. And I've even heard rumor of a New York State poster as well. So if anyone wants to keep up to date, we do have a website with a ton of details. That countdown is accurate as of earlier today. Actually, not as earlier today. I did miss updating that one. That's from about a month or so ago. Tons of information we're sharing wherever you can get eclipse glasses, all the events leading up to the eclipse. I'm trying to see what else coming up. You might have seen us around this summer. One crazy idea that we decided to do was, I said, hey, how big could we make eclipse glasses? And it turns out the largest that we could fit and travel with is 6 feet wide, and these things are fully usable. There is a fully working pair at SUNY Brockport. We have 3 that travel, and we have an 8-foot one that hasn't moved since April at the planetarium. We do have a Rochester Eclipse Task Force. I couldn't do this work alone. There's about 700 of us who have been working towards the eclipse, and it keeps growing and growing. It includes everyone from the colleges, all of the restaurants, community groups, service orgs, event organizers, artists, government officials of every level. It's a mixture of everyone. We do have a whole bunch of meetings coming up. If you feel like joining us, we do it both in person at the museum and virtually. All of our videos can be found on YouTube if you care to go over that. One of the fun things that I have to do as a museum employee throughout all of the eclipse is everything we produce, I have to keep for our archives. Thinking forward to 2144. They might need an exhibit. Where are they going to get those materials? Everything that is produced for the eclipse in the greater Rochester region is documented. We are trying to capture as many stories, tell everything that's going on. We're just kind of thinking about that now. So that, whoever is my replacement in 120 years can be giving this exact same presentation just with a few more slides. A few more photos, and they won't have to just, take really okay images of the DNC from then. If you'd like to keep informed, we have a newsletter. We have different ways of keeping up using social media. And with that, I will just open it up to questions. Yes?
It's a little off the topic, but I was wondering how far back in history were they able to predict that there was going to be an eclipse?
So the question was, how far back in time could they predict eclipses? And here's the thing, I can't give you a number because we don't completely know. I was down in Texas for an eclipse conference in September, and there is a cave drawing there where you could see this curve from the indigenous tribes where they were actually able to predict the eclipse. It's kind of crazy how quickly they were able to predict them. Eclipses go on cycles of 18 years, 11 days, and 8 hours. So it follows that exact same path, just about 120 degrees elsewhere on Earth. So over time, it just gets repeated again and again and again. So we know all of these going back quite a while. And in fact, because the moon is moving ever so slightly further away from us, we used to have more total solar eclipses. So in the time of the dinosaurs, they had plenty. But over time, we will, millions of years from now, no longer have total solar eclipses.
In this area, how long will it be a total eclipse? In other words, total.
So totality will last for 3 minutes and 43 seconds if you're standing right here. My guess will be a fraction of a second for the surrounding region.
Will the communications on Earth be affected by the total eclipse?
So the question was, will the communications be impacted by the eclipse? Not by the actual eclipse, but by everyone being around here. So I want you to imagine what your cell phone would be like at a Bills game. And you know how hard it is to pull up anything on your phone at a Bills game, no matter how much you might need an ambulance from heart attacks of that last game. Yeah. I'm happy with how last night ended. Midway, yeah. But it does have an impact on cell signal. There's a lot of communication efforts being put in to kind of help it out. We had the same issues back during the PGA last year. And thankfully, there's a lot of lessons learned that are being implemented. More cell-on towers, cell-on wheels, otherwise known as cows, and just kind of letting people know ahead of time.
Do they think traffic is going to be affected for people coming in to this region to see it as much as leaving?
So the question was, is the traffic going to be as impacted with people coming in as it will be with leaving? Thankfully, because it's a Monday, and Easter's 8 days beforehand, and it's spring break the week beforehand, honestly, we're expecting to trickle in, so it won't be as bad getting in, much worse getting out.
Are Rochester hotels predicting full occupancy?
Are Rochester hotels predicting? Yes. In fact, they're heavily booked. They're not 100% booked, because I learned that a lot of hotel rooms get opened up closer to an event as well. There's a lot of people going to Airbnb, or honestly staying outside the path of the eclipse and planning to drive in that day. Last year, I went through a lot of the Finger Lakes outside of the path, and their hotels were starting to get booked as well. Because if you're right outside and only like a half hour in, that's not bad.
Dan, I heard that all campgrounds
Not all campgrounds, a lot of them. Not every campground is ready for early April. Mostly the bathrooms. The bathroom situation is not great at every state park or at every campground in the region, so not everything will be open right away, at least for overnight. The day of, to view it, probably a bit more open than camping. When can you get them?
Where?
Oh, where? You can get them at the museum right now, at a lot of your local libraries. I believe Hilton Parma should have a bunch of glasses soon, as they are one of our ambassadors. You'll see a lot of them pop up really, really soon. In the last month, I've received about 200,000 of them. And I have another 112,000 coming this week, and the rest coming very, very soon. So they'll be coming in batches, and it takes a long time. It takes me a lot longer to get them out to people than I had originally hoped. Because they come in boxes of 3,200. And they come in 1,000 pounds at a time. I am so glad for our pallet jacks and equipment at the museum. However, those pallet jacks don't go down to my storage area. It took a good chunk of a day with 2 of us moving boxes. Other questions?
What do the glasses cost?
I know at the museum we're only selling them for $2.50. We've kind of asked everyone in the region to only go as high as $2.50 per pair to keep that price down. So if people want to undersell us, I am all for it. Because it means that they become more accessible. We've also given away a good chunk of them as well to the wider community.
Any other questions? Dan, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
We have a 50-50 drawing to do, and I'm going to ask Dan if he will do the honors.
Of course.